I know I walk a very fine line in the midst of philosophers and theologians in the room, and those that have worked in the space of regionalism for far too long, longer than I've been. I was reflecting this morning on what my pitch would be. I saw myself as in two different scenarios, so to speak. A little boy that was brought up in the village, and also now as a national and regional civil servant. Yesterday I was opening and welcoming the young diplomats from the region that are here for training. I had shared with them my journey, my personal journey, where I've come from to where I am now, and how blessed I've been. And I shared with them my own experience working in a gold mine for 3 years, what I've learned, the importance of life, and how one can appreciate life every day. Going into the mines every morning, praying, and then coming out alive, and you're so happy that you've survived the day. And my life in working in the sewage department in Lotoka, where I've appreciated why it's so important not to take not only life for granted, but never look at any human being differently, even though you're wearing overalls and you're covered with dirt. And how my life in working as a civil servant meant in relation to a meaning of service and sacrifices, particularly during a tenure that in the Fijian government, with its all challenges and obviously tribulations. So in my reflection to you this morning, I thought I was only supposed to speak yesterday. I'm glad Cassie had reminded me that I have a session today. I was blessed too because when I was young, having been brought up in the village, I was clear in my mind about my status and my role. So in a village setup, I'm a mbete or a priest. Also in my younger age, when I was still in the village, I realized through a crusade that we've had as part of the church, I realized that I have a gift of counsel. And when I'm reflecting on the theme for this week, looking at leadership and diplomacy, they were those two keywords that popped up in this week's theme. I really count myself fortunate to have the upbringing and being blessed by God in relation to the gifts that I have. And being brought up in the village, you learn diplomacy at its best. We're talking about Onwa. We're talking about Beokani or your relationships, because diplomacy is all about relationships. Leadership is all about relationships. That is. It's all about people. It's all about relationships. And when then you have the values that guide the way you do things in the village, Virakovi, respect. When you're taught responsibilities, so Itavi, Velomani are virtues that you live by. With Talanoa or dialogue, in everything that we do. And I recall when the village head always make their rounds every month to call out or give instructions, or there's always silence. And respect is a very core value that we stand by, and also humility. I've often reflected when I was in the Fijian government that Fijians, and I believe the same goes to Pacific Islanders, we are born diplomats. It's just like being part of the Sevens team. You have skills, it's just a discipline that needs to be nurtured. And we have it in us in the way we do things. Who we are is defined by those rules or code of conduct, as they say now, in relation to the way we manage a relationship and the way that we conduct ourselves. And we're blessed with gifts, we're blessed with purpose, and also the journey that I've had to where I am today. Now that I'm here serving you and being part of a family here at your secretariat, when I came, it was just a job. Now, having spent time here, I can fully understand my purpose. And it's no longer a job, it's a calling. And what I've been able to do in connecting different conversations, different leaders, and being part of a family of countries in the region, it has really been a huge blessing for me. And I'm sharing this in light of your theme and my journey in how we personalize leadership and diplomacy. I was talking to a group of team principal and Kasi were there in PTC when I last visited, about the role that Fiji played in ensuring that the region was reunited after the impasse. And the role that we had to play in the advice that we give based on the values of the Pacific: humility, respect, trust, for us to ensure that we are united or reunited, so to speak. When Prime Minister Mbuka went to Kiribati, it was probably the most humble experience that I've seen. It was the first time for a Fijian leader to visit Kiribati on a state visit. It was a humbling experience when you were in Kiribati and were able to see the people, the way they react to leadership being personified. And then they're able to relate to it because they live by those values. Fijian leaders in the past have always emphasized, or there's this emphasis more on visits to other countries, the bigger countries. We take official visits and state visits. The visit to Kiribati was the first time for a Fijian leader to be accorded a state visit. And the 2 days experience there was something that I have not seen in my whole entire life. But it is leadership and diplomacy at work at a critical time when the region needed it. We've tried to resolve this issue for almost 2 years. For me personally, when we started this conversation, it was about trying to understand who are the influences. Who do leaders trust in their advice in the region? Whether it's traditional leaders, whether it's spiritual leaders, whether it's the spouses or some, or ministers, advisors in government. There were different responses, different assessments that we gathered. But one thing was clear, that Kiribati was one that we needed to work on. So when the advice was given to Prime Minister to visit Kiribati, based on his own theme or mantra of let love shine, and then him taking that bold step was one that was, for me, an experience, I believe an experience of a lifetime. So in the 2 years we've been trying to resolve the impasse, it only took 20 minutes to resolve when he was in Kiribati. We did our traditional ceremonies of Mboka. Mboka is one that is very intense in its meaning and very profound in its definition. And it's about reconnection. It's about you are part of us, and we are here because we want to be clear that we are also part of you. There has been differences at a personal level, there's been deaths, but we are here to come in and reassure you and reaffirm our commitment to you. And there was supposed to be officials meeting thereafter. When the Mboka was done, there was just tears. Tears in all our eyes about that particular experience. So when leaders spoke after in the meeting, it was supposed to be for 30 minutes, and then the officials were supposed to then come in to have another round of discussions for 1 hour. We all waited outside. The leaders had the conversation. 20 minutes later, the door opened. President opened the door, called us in. We sat down, and then they basically told us there'll be no more meetings. This is what we've decided. All you need to do is draft the outcomes and the press release. That was it. 20 minutes. 20 minutes on an issue that we've been struggling with for 2 years. And mind you, the 2 years were not easy. Different expectations, different interests of countries. And for us as civil servants, we had to do everything that we could, including following ministers to nightclubs to try and influence them in terms of decisions. I had a conversation with one minister, and he told me, okay, if you want my help, you have to take me to a nightclub. But that is how things went. Then when you're looking at it in the regional landscape where we are now, you'll understand that regionalism is driven sometimes by personalities. So it depends on who's there, who's the leader, their interests, and how one perceives regionalism and how it affects what they do and how they can also influence the processes that lead to policies being driven. Okay, if you look at regionalism, if I could just probably discuss this with you by definition. So there are 3 conditions to regionalism. The first, that it's countries coming together. Second, they agree on certain goals and purpose that serves their interest. And third, to complement national efforts and add value to national efforts. So if you understand it from that context, it's all about how we can support each other, including governments, to meet aspirations of our people. At the center of it is our people. And for us here at the forum, this is called the home of regionalism. Here, your secretariat. In an organizational term, you would see references of the apex of regionalism. Okay, so convert leadership to organizational level for us in the region. This is the apex. But as in personal leadership, sometimes we forget about what that translates to in relation to organizations. And it is our role to ensure that we are part of the greater family that call ourselves different family members of regionalism, that is. And as a leader, there's an expectation for us to corral, for us to bring everyone together, and for us to ensure that we empower and not lead without or lead with expectations that everyone will follow. And it's an experience that's why when we started yesterday, I was talking about even the 3 meetings that we are having here this week. Because it is, even this meeting here, being held here, it is an experience in itself. Because the way we need to see ourselves now is that this is a meeting place for great minds, for minds, different conversations, different discussions, for us to be able to listen. Because leadership is about listening. So we are grateful that, again, we have this opportunity for us to be here today. Our Pacific values, traditional structures, and world view plays a significant role in how we as Pacific leaders lead our region, secure our future, and drive collective action. Because our role is to drive collective action. And the Pacific Way remains a philosophy that frames our Pacific diplomacy. And I tell you, for me personally, my exchanges and encounters with PTC has really helped me in my own understanding of philosophies, and also in my own understanding of what it means in relation to my work, and how what we do, it makes more sense and meaning in how we connect to our communities and to those that we serve. Our forefathers, in their wisdom, they have strengthened what we call veokani, or relationships, in regional affairs through consensus-based decision-making, respect, and a shared vision aimed at ensuring the well-being and resilience of our people. Often in our context, there's always been reference to Ratumara and Sir Michael Samare. It is one that we are also reflecting on as an organization in terms of regional leadership and what it means. And we recognize that policies that we make at the regional and national levels are formulated by robust consultations with our communities, stakeholders, and those who hold leadership roles at all levels. And I know for a fact that this is an area that we need your help in, and one that we also need to strengthen. The emphasis on Talanoa as a platform for open and inclusive dialogue it creates a process for policy design that allows Pacific people to drive the process using methods and approaches that recognize our cultural and traditional values. The Talanoa encourages contributions from everyone, ensuring that both the outspoken and the reserved voices are heard. And I've been reminded time and again from Professor Hupolu Baaye about the philosophy of restraint. And this is one issue, one area that for me as a regional civil servant sitting in meeting rooms, just sitting and be able to understand and hear silence. And it is a skill that I often encourage our team here to be able to have. It's a skill that one needs, particularly when we have conversations, regional conversations on issues that are sensitive in nature. How do we read silence? What does silence mean in a particular context? And how do we ensure that that silence is translated to mean that we are doing what is expected of us? And by valuing these different personalities in our dialogues, we strengthen our collective decision-making and ensure that no perspective is overlooked. The Forum Secretariat, that is your Secretariat, will continue in our efforts to ensure that civil society organizations, private sector, faith-based organizations, and youth are engaged in regional policy development processes towards deepening regionalism. And it is important for me to also raise that we are at this juncture now where we are also reviewing the regional architecture, one that ensures that we are all part of one regional system, not different organizations, different status in our community, but one that delivers one regional system where we all see ourselves as being part of, which is an area that we are now working on, and we will be presenting a report in Solomon Islands in September when leaders meet. The 2050 strategy for the Blue Pacific continent is a blueprint for our region. It articulates the vision of our leaders for our people. It recognizes the deep connection we have as a people in the region to the land, our spirituality, and the communities that we serve. Within our long-term strategy, I know you've heard of the 2050 strategy, a thematic area is on political leadership and regionalism. It focuses on the very issues we are discussing today, and obviously in the 3 days that we are here. And our level of ambition, it speaks to having in place strong and enduring leadership that will address the complexities that we are facing today. Leadership that is based on humility, respect, and trust. At the heart of effective civic leadership is understanding that our leaders obviously have different personalities and styles of leadership. Embracing this diversity is crucial for us in how we work together to uphold our collective responsibility, or Itabi in Fijian. A leader guided by Pacific values of Wirakovi or respect, diplomacy, inclusivity will manage diverse personalities by creating space for Talanoa and dialogue. And you will also acknowledge that by encouraging open Talanoa, dialogue, and empathizing with different points of view, such a leader can turn a group of individuals, or even countries, to work in a very cohesive manner. And this approach mirrors the way we work in the Pacific, particularly in consensus building, where unity is achieved, not by silencing differences, but by weaving them into a stronger whole, a collective. We also acknowledge that our region is facing increasing geopolitical tensions that require our unity, solidarity, and the Pacific diplomacy to amplify our voices and concerns on critical issues like climate change, sea level rise, and their impacts on our people becoming critically important. But built on these values, we create an environment of respectful relationships and connection that will shape regional policies to work for us, reflecting on our own theories of change, content, and ambitions we have set for ourselves. And where or respecting one another, including our different personalities and perspectives, ensures these relationships remain strong and our decision-making remains inclusive. Our delivery should protect our collective interests and our sovereignty as we remain engaged in regional and global discourse. There are a number of similar capacity building programs such as this, which is aimed to enhancing leadership and diplomatic abilities or capabilities within the region. And I'm glad that through the RILD institute that PTC has, we'll be able to help us in shaping future leadership, one that is grounded in traditional knowledge and, of course, spirituality. And these initiatives will help our future leaders to learn, to harness and strengthen our diverse personalities within the different groups as a vital part of effective leadership. And obviously, we really look forward to working with PTC in our partnership on this particular endeavor. For us, as your Secretariat, we will encourage more Veit Talanoa and urging you to keep an open mind while also respecting the views that will come from your colleagues. And remember that each of us bring different perspectives, yet we all deserve to be heard and respected. So again, we are so grateful that you are here these 3 days. We are here, and we are also grateful for this opportunity of meeting of the minds here at your Secretariat. There's a lot that is expected of all of us. There's a lot that is expected of us in relation to managing relationships. And it takes strong leadership and obviously a lot of diplomacy. But I'm glad that with this partnership with PTC, there's a lot that we can also address and do together as we build a future where leadership remains strong and we are able to meet the needs and expectations and aspirations of our people.